Hi everyone and welcome to this storytime video. I wanted to make this video, it's sort of an introduction or a background story to a video that I'm going to be making in like a week or so. I'm not sure when that will come out, but that video is going to be about having like fears and insecurities as a rider and how you can tackle them and how you can train yourself to be more confident. So this is the story of my horse Larry, or Lardinois. I will be putting in photos of him while I'm talking, so you don't have to watch my ugly mug talk for whatever long time this is going to take. I have a script down here, so I might be looking down. But yeah, this is the story about my horse Larry. He was a once in a lifetime horse. Um, and it's not in a way you might think, um, because Larry came to me when I was tough and I was slightly overconfident. After I had one of the world's best ponies jumpers, um, at least for me, but like he went on to win the national championships and everything. And at the same time, I had a youngster for a very short time that we had to put down, and my mental state got like a chink in it from that. So if there's anything I mention in this video that you want to know more about, like previous horses or anything, just leave it in the comments. I bought Larry because he felt like a pony, but with incredibly long legs. um, and even though he was a bit all over the place when I tried him and he stopped at some jumps and everything, I really felt safe on him, and I got him very, very cheap. And that was very important because I've never been a rich person. And with Larry, I got a very good horse. He'd gone the 1 meter 40 speed classes at international competitions in the Netherlands before I got him. But he had problems both mentally and physically, and the uh, dealer that I went to hadn't been able to sell him, so I got him for very cheap. Like I said, I went into owning Larry and our relationship with a great deal of confidence and maybe not enough humility. We really, really struggled the first year. First of all, he was in pain. He had stride like a Shetland pony when I got him, and this was a 16-1 horse. He was a 1 meter 63 centimeters. He had back problems and he had inflammation in his front fetlock joints, and yeah, he needed a lot of chiropractic treatments, laser treatments, massages and everything. So we did that for the first um 6 months, often like every third week. Also, he was incredibly head shy, and it took me almost a year to be able to groom his head without putting a head collar on first. Um, he would panic if his bum hit something, like the door frame to the stable, or the door when he went in and out of the stable or in and out of the barn. He would panic, and he even, first day I owned him, we put him out in the paddock and he jumped the fence and ran in again into his stable because he wasn't used to being out. There was a lot mentally to unpack there and physically. During riding, Larry was hot and fizzy and I guess people call it sassy, but it wasn't sass. It wasn't like being naughty. It was basically him being bred for performance, having a very sensitive mind, reacting to things with running and rearing, and being very sensitive in general, and yeah, hot and forwards. He did things that at the time I didn't understand, such as every time I went on a 20-meter circle and we passed X in the middle of the arena, he would throw himself the other way and change the canter. And I got mad because I was ignorant of why he did these things. I didn't ask myself why. And he would also freak out over trotting poles, either canter all the trotting poles. I know it sounds impossible, he could do it, or he would jump all the trotting poles in one go. So yeah, and also he reared. He reared a lot, all the time. Every time there was something he didn't understand, or he got frustrated, or scared, or anything like that, he would rear. He was probably dangerous to hack out. I did it anyway. He would launch himself into the air if he saw something, and you'd suddenly be on the other side of the road or the field. um, but he was smart, and we had instances like there was an almost accident where I was out hacking with a friend on her pony, and we came around a bend. There was a car that had been behind us for a little while. It was quite a twisty road, and this bend, they started to pass us. And as they were passing me and Larry, there came a lorry with a lot of big rocks on the um, back of it, um, towards us. And there was a lot of brakes screeching and rocks rattling and everything. And the pony jumped into the creek, and Larry just planted 1 foot in each corner and was like, I'm just gonna stand here, and whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. Yeah, but like he was also afraid of um, snow. So I mean, jumping, jumping went really fast. Like I said, he'd done speed classes, and he would also bounce towards jumps and throw his head in the air. And he would also, when we landed, he would throw his head back. So I had to learn quickly that I had to sit up on landing, otherwise I would get his head in my face. He would also, my mom used to say she didn't want to watch us jump because she would say he jumps between the jumps, like catching on it, that only he can see. So like that's what he did. He would throw his legs out and like my trainer, she thought I was mad for getting Larry, um, because of the problems I've had with the youngster. But I wasn't scared of Larry in the beginning. Our first summer together, I put Larry out in the field with some mares, and he got to be a horse again. He calmed down a lot, and our relationship grew better from that. I could actually canter him on hacks and stuff like that, and I hadn't been able to control him before that. He mellowed out a lot, and his body felt better by this time. Well, there was some funny stories that happened this summer, and I thought I'd share them with you because I don't want you to get the impression that this horse was only problematic. There was some very funny personality quirks with him, and he was such a nice character. But first thing that happened was we were on a hack, and the ground suddenly became boggy, and he started to sink in, and I was like, okay, we're not gonna go this way. I didn't want to turn back because we'd been on quite a long hack, and it was quite a long way back, and we were almost out of the woods. So I looked around and I saw like a parking lot through the trees to my left, and I decided we're just gonna go off-roading through the trees and into this parking lot because I knew then we would be out on the roads. And when we came closer, I saw there was a huge ditch um, between us and the parking lot. It had some water in it, but it was fairly like, there weren't any like brushes or anything. And somebody had put I think it's like a 2x4, a plank over it so people can walk on it. Quite a sturdy plank. And I decided I would lead Larry over it. So I jumped off, took the rein off one side of his bit. So I had like a long rein, and I thought he would jump this ditch and I could walk over on the plank. So I held on to the end of this rein, started walking on the plank, and as I came to the middle, I felt this vibration behind me. And I turned around, and there was Larry, and he was placing his feet like this on this narrow plank, walking behind me instead of jumping the ditch. Another funny thing that happened that summer was I had a portable tack locker that I kept in a shed in the field. That had been a barrier so the horses couldn't get onto it, but then they tore the barrier down, so they started to like scratch on it and bite it and everything, and I didn't want it to get ruined, so I figured I would take it away from the field and place it somewhere else. And the field was kind of like bumpy, and the tack locker was full of tack and very heavy, and I was pulling it behind me because it had wheels and everything, and I got stuck on one of these bumps and I couldn't get it over, and I was like standing there and pulling and pulling and pulling, and suddenly I felt like a push from behind and the tack locker came loose, and I turned around and Larry was like, and he had pushed the locker with, I don't know if it was like his chest or his head, but he had pushed the locker. And so I pulled it again. He kept following me, and I stopped once to like catch my breath, and he started pushing on the locker. So he was quite a smart horse. He understood the strangest things and would panic for the most normal things. So shortly after that summer, I started working for an acclaimed show jumping trainer, and we moved to his yard. And I think this is the stupidest thing I've ever done, because Larry got so much worse when we were there. His stress levels rose. He wasn't happy with the lack of turnout. I rode for the trainer, and I could tell he didn't like us. He didn't like Larry. And one day after we had a lesson, he punched Larry in the head. We were just standing there. I was getting feedback from the trainer after the lesson. Larry had a long rein, and he would, after every lesson, whether it was jumping or dressage, he would like to sort of throw his head up and down in the air. His own whole neck went, and he would play with the bit. But I didn't mind because he was standing completely still. He wouldn't move other than his neck and head. The trainer, out of nowhere, took his fist and just smacked him in the head. And I was so shocked. I didn't actually say anything. I wish I had. I just simply stopped riding for him. I rode for one of the other rider slash trainers there for a little bit, but we quickly moved away after that. But I lost all the respect for that trainer because there were some instances of borderline abusive behavior to other horses as well when I worked there, and I kind of lost the like want to do show jumping because of the environment that was there and how the other riders that kept their horses there didn't react to the way the horses were being handled and treated. And so we moved. and I ended up at a barn where I got to ride for a female trainer, and it was night and day compared to what we'd been through at the other barn. Um, she understood Larry and she kept backing me up and instead of tearing us down. And um, she would say, you might not win a lot of competitions on this horse, but you will learn a lot and become a much better rider than the gals on their push button ponies and horses. And it was a really nice barn, but Larry didn't really like it there. We had so many scary experiences out hacking. Uh, he was attacked by a dog and biting his neck, and meeting the plow truck in the winter. And let's not forget the instance with the parked stroller, which Larry thought would hit him. And when I tried to lead him past it, he reared up and I lost hold of the reins and he ran all the way home. So this was also the place where me and Larry had our accident. Like I said, the trainer was amazing. We jumped courses up to 1 meter 40 in her sessions. I'll put the non-metric down here. The only thing we had trouble with at that point was doubles. Specifically, Larry would lose confidence at the second fence, or he would be, let's say, uncontrollable through the two jumps. And this autumn day, he was amazing. He was much calmer than normal. He was much more controllable. And so she said, let's work on the doubles. And we were jumping a two-stride double with an upright as the first jump, two strides and then an oxer. And it went fairly well. We jumped it up to 1 meter 5, I think. And then she said, let's put it up to 120, because it's not really the height in itself that was a problem for Larry. It was the situation. And since he was doing really well, we figured we should push him a little bit to see if we could get him to do this. And so I rode him first time and he stopped at the second jump. And my trainer was like, okay, there's a difference between 1 meter and 120. You need to have a better canter, you need to have more leg. So I rode in again. He still stopped at the second. And she was like, more canter. And so I really got a really good show jumping canter on him through this corner and into this first jump. He jumped the first jump, and instead of two strides he took one stride, and then he jumped, and we didn't clear the oxer. We landed in the middle. I don't remember this. I just been told later that Larry flipped over, so it's kind of like a rotational fall, I suppose. I was thrown, I was hit the ground, I rolled probably 10 or 20 meters before I hit another fence pole. Fantastically enough, we weren't injured. I don't remember it, like I said, but I was just muddy and wet because it was kind of like a rainy day. And so my trainer, she just was like, are you okay? Okay, let's leg you up. Ride around, put the jumps down, and we jumped them again, first at 80 centimeters and then at 1 meter, and then we called it a day. But after that, it was like the trust that me and Larry had built up between us was broken, and he wouldn't jump 40 centimeters without stopping. and it got worse when we were hacking, and I got scared. First, I got scared of jumping him, and then slowly I got scared to go on hacks. And then I got scared of countering him. And it was like this dark abyss that was dragging me down, and it couldn't find a way to crawl out. I had moved Larry to a barn with less traffic at this point. There were no roads, but it didn't help. I rode for a really great trainer in dressage, and I learned a lot more, but it had a negative effect on my confidence and my mental state, because although I learned more, I started to understand how little I knew at that point, and how I felt like a really bad rider because I kept comparing myself to my trainer, who was a professional, which was a silly thing to do, but that's what you do. So Larry, he was a very sensitive soul, and he noticed my fear, and that even made our relationship worse and worse. And in the end, it ended up me having a panic attack one day when I was riding him. My trainer, she suggested that it was time to move on, that we couldn't repair our bond. We had been working on it for a year at that point. It didn't get better, it just got worse. She said I should sell him, but I was hesitant because it felt like I was abandoning him, because we had this special bond at the point. And yeah, but in the end, I ended up selling him to a woman that was very good with him, and I found the home where he was happier, he could start anew, and he had people that loved him, and he got a trust bond with them instead, just like he'd had with me before things went downhill. So I owned Larry for 4.5 years, and I learned a lot from him. And even though I started out with lots of self-confidence and being brave, and ended up being scared and with no self-confidence, it's still a time that I value. It taught me a lot about myself as a person. It taught me a lot about horses, and it taught me a lot about how I wanted to train horses and handle horses and keep horses. Sometimes I think about Larry and how different it would have been if I could have him at this point in time, with the knowledge and the experience that I have now. But then again, I wouldn't be the knowledgeable and experienced rider I am now without having been through what I had been through with Larry. So I hope you enjoyed this story time about my life with my problem horse and losing my confidence. As you might know if you've seen my videos, I'm not there anymore, and I'm going to make a video where I talk about how I got my confidence back, and techniques and tricks and mental exercises that you can use to gain confidence if that is something you struggle with. So please leave any comments about this video down in the comment section. Any questions, I will not be offended by any questions or anything like that. I will answer anything. I think it's very important to have a dialogue about this kind of experience and the fear and the mistakes that were made and the lack of confidence that I'd ended up with. But yeah, please like this video and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss the next video about this, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!